to be in self-isolation. Guess I can't talk about hockey anymore, right? Wrong! Hello, Quebec Nordiques, it's been a while. Hello, and welcome to another Bolts Analysis. I'm your host, Chris, as we look at the Tampa Bay Lightning, the rest of the NHL. Now, a while ago, or at least it feels like a while ago, I did start a two-parter where I was going to talk about the teams that weren't happy about the pause and teams that probably were more happy about the pause for various reasons. So last time I talked about the teams that weren't happy. This time I'm going to talk about the top 5 teams who are quite glad that the pause has happened. I'm going to go to clarify, I'm just going to go with teams who are sort of in and around the playoffs, because obviously I could go with, number 1, Detroit Red Wings, number 2, Buffalo Sabres. I could pick a whole bunch of teams who have obviously struggled, haven't had a good season, and are like, thank the Lord it's over. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go with teams who are in playoff contention. Number 1. Pittsburgh Penguins. These guys have kind of had a rough few weeks of it, and I think for Pittsburgh, a nightmare scenario would have been getting to the playoffs only to lose to the Philadelphia Flyers. And thankfully, you can't lose to your hated rivals in the playoffs if there are no playoffs. So I think for Pittsburgh, this has been a bit of relief, especially as, unfortunately, this season did look like it was started turning into some sort of horrible deja vu, where they were doing okay, and they were top of the division, but then they started having those same old defensive issues. Is it Matt Murray, or is it just the fact that Chris Letang will turn over the puck to whoever he likes? Difficult to say, but I think the Pittsburgh Penguins will be very grateful for this pause, especially as they're going to get some of their injured players back, particularly Jake Gensel. Number 2, gonna go with the Dallas Stars. Now, it might not seem like Dallas are looking particularly weak, but they did just have a pretty bad losing streak, and the rest of the Central Division was actually starting to heat up. For a long time, it did look like Dallas was going to be in a playoff series with the Colorado Avalanche. However, of course, Colorado, at the time of the pause, was very much still in the race for first. So Dallas would have had a bad scenario anyway, where they would have been second favourites to either Colorado or the St. Louis Blues. But even worse for Dallas, teams like Nashville, Winnipeg, the Minnesota Wild, and Chicago not only aren't fading away, but all seem to be in with a genuine chance of making the playoffs. And if any one of those teams was to have gone on a really good run whilst Dallas was continuing to slump, then Dallas might well have found themselves not just out of third but into a wildcard spot. And that would have meant that Dallas would probably have been going up against the likes of Vegas or, again, St. Louis. Not a good position to be in, especially when you're not in form. So I think for Dallas this has been very much a welcome pause. Number 3, I'm going to go with the Washington Capitals. I think for Washington, there was a lot of promise this season, and they do look strong, and it's been good for Ovechkin, but otherwise, I think there are issues that sort of the Capitals could really do with a pause to actually look at and go, okay, we might be strong now, but what's our future? Where are we going from here? Are we, at the peak of our powers? And if so, is this the best chance for us to win a Stanley Cup again, because it might be a while until a third one? I think for me, the Capitals are in a bit of a bind, particularly in terms of the goalie situation, because it doesn't look like Braden Holtby is A, getting any better, or B, likely to be sticking around. And then, of course, you have the fact that Samsonov is a very good goalie, clearly, and has been having a very good start to the season, but he is a rookie, and it would have been a bit of a gamble starting him in the playoffs. Maybe a pause or even a cancellation of the season just gives Washington a bit more time to work out what they're going to do about the goalie situation. Do they actually trust Samsonov, or do they actually decide that they need to bring in essentially a new Holtby, someone with experience, someone who can be called upon to make good saves, and you would back in a playoff run? Number 4, going to go with the New York Islanders. New York Islanders have definitely not been as strong in the second half of the season as they were in the first. It's clear that to a certain extent the defensive hockey and the good work ethic were very good to start off with, but teams have started to figure it out, and once that plan A is gone for the New York Islanders, they haven't really shown a plan B. Sometimes they can do a sort of you score, we score hockey, but more often than not it doesn't work for them. They leave themselves too open, and sometimes they can even throw away great positions like they were when they were up against Washington, only to lose, I think it was something like going from 4-1 up to 6-4 down. Not good at all. Definitely I think the Islanders needed a break, and also I guess it just gives them a bit more time to sort of, again, look to the future. You know, new stadium, maybe time to sort of look at sort of slightly different players. Do they want to have a different style? Is it going to work long term under Barry Trotz? Or are they in danger of just becoming a little bit of a one-trick pony? And number 5, I think this is the last team. This is not necessarily about the playoffs, I think it's just good for the team as a whole. The Columbus Blue Jackets definitely coming at number 5. It doesn't necessarily matter to a certain extent whether or not Columbus Blue Jackets make the playoffs. It just matters that they get their injured players back. Good gracious, just looking at the number of injuries that the Blue Jackets have had, it's been a horror show. It could almost be a horror movie. I mean, what happened with the goalie situation alone, with things like Korpisalo getting injured in a shootout, Bjorkstrand. I mean, it would probably be easier to name the Columbus Blue Jackets players who haven't got injured this year. It's been horrendous, and it's been a great tribute to Columbus that they have been able to stay in the playoff race, but really, they really did need a pause just to stop. And even if the season resumes again and they don't make the playoffs, at least they'll have a team. At least they'll have something to go on, rather than the absolute sort of scraps that they're feeding off at the moment. Never has the bond between an NHL team and an AHL team been so important. They have had to call up rookie after rookie. The Columbus Blue Jackets. I think the longer the season had gone on, it would have eventually taken its toll, and indeed it was already starting to take its toll on Columbus. So this pause is very much needed. That is it from me. Thank you very much for watching this rather belated second part to this little mini-series I've done. I'm not sure what I'll look at next time, but we'll look at something. I might sort of delve into the archives and look at a couple of playoff runs of the Tampa Bay Lightning and see what I think of them. But thank you very much for watching, and remember, they should bring back the Nordiques.